Broadcasting live from the Capital OTB studios, this is Racing Across America with Seth Merrow.
Good morning and welcome to Racing Across America on this Sunday morning. I am Seth Merrow. Thanks for joining us. A little bit later on, we'll be joined by Dave Grening from the Daily Racing Forum, New York correspondent for the Racing Forum. A couple of nice turf stakes yesterday, a couple of nice turf stakes today down in New York. So a little preview, a little review of some of the stakes action, which ostensibly wrapped up the turf season, or would today. But we'll talk to Dave. He had an article just within the past couple of days that NYRA considering maybe going into next week with turf racing. So we'll see how that works. Everybody loves the turf racing. Nice full fields, always great action. So we'll see. We may get a little extra turf in New York this season. But again, Dave will be coming up a little bit later on. Going to kick things off, though. First, I do want to alert you that there's another online Pick 3 bankroll coming up on Thursday. Entries are open now. We'll have a team of 10 selected. So go to capitalotv.com, click on the promotions link, look for the Pick 3 bankroll graphic, and you will find an entry form there. Fill it out, and we'll select the team later in the week. And again, that'll be coming up on Thursday, the online Pick 3 bankroll. Our October bankroll knocked it out of the park. $1,200 or $1,800, turned $150 into that. So with 10 people playing, everybody got well over $100 of free money, courtesy of Capital OTB. Last week, a week and a half or so ago, we did one first Thursday in the month. And then again, we have one coming up this coming Thursday. But the last one, the first Pick 3 of the day, and usually I have multiple Pick 3s. The first one was alive again for over $1,000. I had three or four horses live in the last leg. There were a couple of $1,000. The shortest one was about 600. So again, it would have been a nice hit. And we just couldn't get it through that last leg. Hit a couple of little small things. So everybody wound up with a little bit of money. But we'll try to knock it out of the park again Thursday. So the Pick 3 bankroll now open at capitalotb.com. And again, we will have that coming up on Thursday. All right. I say turf action yesterday and today, but it's really been all week long. Turf stakes action. So I thought we'd take a look back at some of that to kick things off. The Thursday stake in New York was the Key Sense for 2-year-old fillies going a mile on the grass. And I like Boomington in there, who did go off as a lukewarm 7-2 choice, but will wind up third in kind of a blanket finish here, really. It was a nice race. Horse I had down at the bottom of my mix was She's Country, going out for our friends at West Point and Company. We will talk more about them with the stakes action yesterday as well. But She's Country is the number one horse, as you can see, making up some ground late over Cosmic Candy, the number 7. And again, splits the horses and makes up that ground to just get that nose. As I said, it's kind of a blanket finish. So in between horses there, She's Country gets it done over Cosmic Candy Girl, and Boomington, the horse I liked, ran third. I liked all three of those horses. Again, this time of year, 2-year-olds are lately raced. There's always the potential to kind of move forward. And these were all good-looking horses. I had them all in my mix, just not on top, as it were, except for Boomington. But it's Javier Castellano. It's George Weaver, who, again, continues to have a really good 2026, does George Weaver. So, again, nice win for West Point and Company. And George Weaver, Javier Castellano, She's Country, Thursday, capturing the Key Sense. That was for state breds, by the way. So they have a nice little New York bred on their hands. I always say, you have the New York bred, you can bounce around. Open Company, they tried it last time. This is a horse, She's Country, who had won the career debut middle of August up at Saratoga. And then they tried the Salima down at Laurel against Open Company, obviously. Ran fourth there. Not bad. but comes back to New York and jumps in against State Bred Company and gets it done on Thursday in the Key Sense. So there was your Thursday stakes action. There was also a turf stake on Friday. It was the State Bred 2-year-old girls on Thursday. It was the boys' version on Friday. Same mile trip for the State Bred males on the grass. And I did not use Jaxer, and it's one of those that debated, went back and forth. But I like Caroline Street Beat, who had won the lone start of the career, the maiden breaker up at Saratoga for Miguel Clement. Not just that I'm a homer, and I've spent a lot of time on Caroline Street, but the debut victory was pretty good looking as the favorite. And off of that, understandably, the favorite on Friday went off as the 8-5 favorite. But Jaxer is going to wind up to be the winner. Number 5 is Caroline Street Beat. Number 6 is Jaxer going out for Grand Motion off a series of improving efforts, including the maiden breaker last time. And Flavian Prat was on board. You can see sneaks up the rail here. Caroline Street Beat, who I like, it's up nice, grinds it out, and just gets up for second. Funny Factor runs third. So it was a nice run for Caroline Street Beat, but again, it was kind of grinding it out on the outside, whereas Jaxer gets a nice rail run under Flavian Prat, who he has been just red hot lately. And so, as I say, I looked at Jaxer off of that maiden breaker, and because Prat was on board, I just didn't quite pull the trigger there. I went with Caroline Street Beat, who, again, ran well. And it was another kind of blanket finish. Jaxer came through on the inside and wound up winning by a length, so it was a nice performance there. But then it was a nose neck between second and third and fourth, so they were all right there. But Jaxer gets it done under Flavian Prat for Grand Motion and pays $8.68 to put 2 wins on the resume in the first 4 starts of the career. And again, these are those 2-year-olds that I like becoming 3-year-olds, albeit on the State Bred side, 2-year-old turf performers who will become 3-year-olds in another month and a half or so. Be fun to watch. But nice performances, really, from both Jaxer and Caroline Street Beat. Being lightly raced, they both offered up a little bit of a potential there going forward. I did not see numbers. I meant to check more today on that, but I would think they might have been out. Let's see if I can check during the break to pull that up. Yesterday, we had Tony Kalo on to talk the Churchill action, which was the Claiming Crown card, and there was some really nice race. Concrete Glory, go back and watch that one on the class. And again, these are all starter allowances for horses. The Lunch Pail Crew, as we said yesterday, the claiming game. But with the conditions, horses may not have been in for a tag for a while and have gone on to bigger and better things. And Concrete Glory certainly had in Stakes Company. So he kind of outclassed the field, although there was another horse with kind of a similar resume with some stakes on it. And they really had a ding-dong battle. Go back and watch that one. But the only thing I pulled up from Churchill yesterday was the actual graded stakes action, the Chaluki. And again, Tony and I talked about this one yesterday, and it lived up to what we were expecting. I had Shred Dinar on top. Tony also liked Shred Dinar. Tony was kind of regretting that he couldn't use Ragtime because he'd liked that one throughout the career. I was in the same boat. I had Shred Dinar just over Ragtime. Shred Dinar's number 2 horse. Ragtime's number 7. Ragtime makes a nice late run. It's just a little too late and winds up in 3rd. But it's a duel, really, pretty much all the way around between Shred Dinar and One Magic Philly. But Shred Dinar, when the running means something, turned it on and pulled away. This is a nice horse. Earlier this season was looking like a potential player on the 3-year-old filly division for Brian Lynch and company. couple of starts down at Gulfstream, just missed in debut, won the second start, then comes up to Churchill on Derby weekend and wins the next start as well. And then obviously a little setback, goes to the sidelines. So a May to November layoff. And, how's the horse going to come back? Okay, looked very good. The win in May at Churchill was 1 1/16. The comebacker was the 1-turn mile. So this horse has won sprinting. It was a 1-turn mile down at Gulfstream too to break the maiden. The debut was a near miss at 6 furlongs though, but certainly versatile and proven it 2 turns again with the 1 1/16 maiden breaker. But Shred the Nard is going to be. We're late in the 3-year-old season. I would expect probably see this one next year. Next as a 4-year-old, but they have a nice one in there with Shred the Nard. Again, you lay off like that and come back and put in a performance. And again, I didn't see the number there either, but I would expect probably a decent one in the Chaluki yesterday, the graded stakes on the card. But it was a nice card with, again, the lunch pail crew, as it were, getting it done, claiming crown down at Churchill. I said over the years, since I've started printing out PPs anyway, you can judge a card by the number of pages. And these days, in most tracks, you print out the whole card in 18, 19, maybe 23 pages. Yesterday's card at Churchill, 49 pages. I mean, nice, big, full fields, and it played out nicely with a lot of great action yesterday at Churchill. Want to congratulate our friend Kim Weir from Therapeutic Horses of Saratoga. She was the recipient of the first Nancy Kelly Volunteered Award for the New York Racetrack Chaplaincy. You can see her there. Ramon, the president of the chaplaincy. Nick Harris, a ranking member of the chaplaincy as well. It was a really, really nice event at the museum on Tuesday, National Museum of Racing, full house, emceed by Tom Durkin. He did a great job. He knew Nancy Kelly, the late Nancy Kelly. Again, she was the award honors her. She was a former president, vice president, longtime volunteer with the New York chaplaincy, and Tom personally knew her and gave her a tribute, which was certainly well-deserved, obviously. And then Ramon got up. There were some other speakers talking about the chaplaincy. Then Ramon got up and introduced Kim, and Kim got up and she herself gave a really nice acceptance speech. And as I say, it was a nice event on Tuesday, a luncheon at the museum, full house capacity. It was in the Hall of Fame room, and there were tables as it was a luncheon, and 8 people at a table, and there was a number. There were a lot of people there. It was, as I say, full house, and it was a nice event. But again, Kim is a deserving recipient of the first Nancy Kelly Volunteer Award, because she certainly is a whirlwind in the volunteer community and has done some nice things for the chaplaincy, as have plenty of other people. But Kim kind of stood out as a fine selection, again, for the first annual Nancy Kelly Volunteer Award. And we had the chaplaincy website up there, and you can visit the chaplaincy website and learn more about. We have a I had some notes from yesterday that I did not get to, and the most notable of those was announced this week. Trainer Dale Romans running for the Senate. Uh, Senator Dale Romans. Who would have thunk it? But Dale threw his hat in the ring a few days ago. He was on Wednesday, because Wednesday's my day, on with Steve Bick on Sirius and XM's At the Races. And you can always go to the Steve Bick website and get the archive. And he had been on earlier that morning talking about it, so you can check that out. There have been plenty of articles out there kind of filling people in. But Dale Romans, he says he's running as an independent Democrat, and talks about some of the positions that he may have going forward. He's running to fill in the seat of the retiring Mitch McConnell. There are a number of other Democrats that have thrown their hat in the ring as well. And the primary is, I'm looking for the date, but it was May. I'm not sure of the exact date. It was here in the article, but I'm not seeing it. May 19th. So it'll be Dale and 4 other Democratic candidates, which I suppose there's still time other people could join, but right at this point it's Dale and 4 others. That'll get decided, a Democrat primary on May 19th. So again, Dale Romans, potentially Senator Dale Romans. And again, it was interesting to read some of his thoughts, and you can go out and read those in some of the articles, or as I say, go pick up the interview with Steve on the Bick Show last Wednesday. He was on fairly early. Consultant, because Bailey was a member of the campaign team for Hillary Clinton's presidential run, I remember some years back. So I'm sure she will play a prominent role, giving some advice. And I saw Dale had tweeted out James Carville had tossed an endorsement Dale's way. So it'll be interesting to see how it plays out, certainly. All right, let's take a break. As promised a little bit ago, we will be joined when we return by Dave Grening from the Daily Racing Forum, New York correspondent. We'll talk yesterday's turf stakes, today's turf stakes, and he was at the Breeders' Cup a couple weeks ago, so maybe we'll get some thoughts there as well. All of that when Racing Across America continues. Stay tuned.
The 2025 Global Symposium on Racing. It's the premier networking event of the year. Connect with the who's who of racing. Collaborate face-to-face with key decision makers. Be a part of the international conversation. Discover the latest technology and innovation. Join us December 8th through 10th. Register at racingsymposium.com.
Capital OTB is now streaming live on Roku. The RTN Racing channel on Roku lets you watch OTB TV live through your Roku device or your Amazon Fire Stick, rather than being limited to computers and mobile devices, which means you can now watch OTB live wherever you are. Simply open Roku, scroll to find the RTN channel, then click on OTB TV. OTB TV on Roku. Try it now.
Sometimes it pays to go with the flow, to check your worries at the door, to reconnect with your crew, to follow the thrills and the flavor, to roll with it and see where it takes you, to enjoy every minute to its fullest, and to dance like there's no tomorrow. You can do that here at Rivers Casino and Resort Schenectady, where the good times flow.
Welcome back to Racing Across America. As promised before the break, joined now by our friend Dave Grening from the Daily Racing Forum, the New York correspondent. Dave, good morning.
Good morning, Seth.
Happy to have you on board because, again, it was a nice turf weekend. And I started the show, I looked at some of the stakes from earlier this week as well. They had turf action Thursday and Friday also. Last weekend, the Morley horse, Atfield, may be one to watch going forward. But this was today that the turf action was supposed to wrap things up, but it looks like, according to what you've written sometime within the last couple of days, Naira may be looking at some more turf action, maybe extended another week.
Yeah, they've carded 2 turf races so far for Thursday and Friday, each on the outer turf course, and they plan to do that through the weekend. I do think we might have some rain in the forecast Friday, so it could start to get a little dicey, but for now, they're going to try and squeeze out a little bit more out of these grass course, at least the outer turf course, through next weekend before they officially shut it down. But today's 2 stakes, they're the last. Actually, the meet started out with 12 turf stakes, and today's races are the 11th and 12th of those. The other races that they're extras are allowance and maiden races.
Yeah, you wrote also that it's been turf racing is so popular with the horsemen and the players, but it's all weather dependent. But the fall season has been very kind to New York as far as turf racing.
Yeah, I think we're at about 158, something like that, from the September 11th when we opened up at Belmont and Aqueduct meet, and I think there was 130 there or something. And I think after today will be close to, actually it might be close to 160 after today. But we've only taken 7 off the turf so far this fall. So not whatever.
Yeah.
It's a good thing because the field size is definitely higher by at least the proverbial horse and a half per field.
No, it's definitely, as I say, very popular. All right, let's take a look, a little review before we do some preview. Yesterday, a couple of nice turf stakes. The Jockey Club Oaks Grade 3 event, $350,000 up for grabs. For, as the Oaks name implies, 3-year-old fillies. I had Laurelin over Fionn, but down the stretch, there was a moment where I thought, Laurelin looks pretty good. Laurelin is going to be the number 7 horse here for Graham Motion. This one had a win streak snapped in the last start, had won the first 5 starts of the career, did Laurelin, and then got caught last time in the QE2 down at Keeneland. And Laurelin, the number 7, is making a nice run, but Fionn also makes a nice run, and the number 4 horse manages to get it done over Laurelin. Nice battle between those two in the stretch. Your thoughts on the Jockey Club Oaks?
Yeah, my thoughts basically bet against Flavian Pratt on the turf at your own risk. This guy is starting to remind me of Jerry Bailey, the way Bailey commanded the turf course here. Obviously he was very good on dirt too, and so was Flavian. But this guy is just, the ride he gave on Jaxer on Friday, I thought was spectacular. He was going to follow Manny Franco outside and said, no, I have more horse than this guy does. I'm going to zip to the inside. And it opened up. As he made that move, it opened up and he got through and got the job done. In fact, he's won the last 3 stakes races run, all turf, one Friday, 2 Saturday. So he just gives him, right now, he's riding as good, if not better than anyone in the country. And he's making all the right moves. I agree with you. It looked like Laurelin was going to spurt away there for a couple of strides, but Fionn had more stamina, I guess, and kicked in and got the job done. And interesting with Fionn a little bit here, when you start to think about Eclipse Awards for the female turf horse, there's a chance they send this filly out to California for the American Oaks on December 26th. And if she were to win that, it would be her 6th stakes win of the year and second Grade 1. That's pretty heady stuff. I know that the knock on her would be she's only run against 3-year-old fillies, but you could also, for me, you could just stop on the fact that she's run. She's 6 for 7, I think, this year, and that would be another win in another turf course. So it'd be interesting to say, look, they're not committed yet to going, but there's a chance she goes out there, and if people hold off on their ballots, they can. A lot of people do send them back before those races, and those Grade 1s, December 26th with Santa Anita, but it's not out of the realm of possibility that this filly makes a run for an Eclipse Award. She's really, really nice, and I would imagine she's going to be a serious player in the older distaff turf division next year.
As you're talking, I'm looking at that's very, and shame to the people putting the ballot in early, but I think you're right, people do. But as I'm looking, that will be interesting if they elect to do that, certainly. But that was the
early. And she set a track record in her Grade 1 win. She set a course record in the Belmont Oaks which I guess was run at Saratoga. She set a course record and beat Nitrogen, who I believe is everyone's going to be a lot of, the favorite for the 3-year-old filly champion. So just some stuff, food for thought there.
Yeah, no, I think it's very interesting. Absolutely. Ninth race yesterday was the Knickerbocker, $150,000 for the 3-year-olds and up, going 1.125 miles. We're going to watch number 4, Ohana Honor, getting it done for our friends at West Point and Company and Shug. I had Air Recruit on top. That one kind of disappointed, running 5th in here, the number 7. But I had Ohana Honor right underneath and jumps away. Wins it pretty easily. Chart margin's going to be 2.25. Naptown second. Fuerteventura Ventura runs 3rd. But a nice performance for Ohana Honor. And reading your follow-up article, gets a stakes win. And it sounded like Tommy Bellhouse from West Point was thrilled with it, and understandably so. Needed to get something going over the last couple of seasons, and winds up 2026 with a nice stakes victory.
Yeah, look, the horse was 3rd, or he was 3rd in Manhattan in 24. Hadn't won a stakes race in his career. Was knocking on the door and finally smashed it through yesterday with, again, another terrific ride from Flavien Prat, saving all the ground. Got a decent pace to run at, probably a little quicker than you would think for the 1.125 miles, at least around here. And then when he got him in the clear, he really kicked on pretty strongly. And, so they win, West Point and Shug win this race with Ohana Honor. They won the Red Smith a couple weeks ago with Cugino. So they have 2 nice horses for the future, or moving forward into next year, or maybe for the Pegasus World Cup Turf. They also have Integration, but apparently that horse is sidelined. And they said, Tommy Bellhouse, I asked him about that horse yesterday. He said it's going to be a few more months for that horse. So while Integration has run in the Pegasus World Cup Turf the last couple of years, he's not going to be running in that race this year, but maybe Cugino and or Ohana Honor will be.
They also won the Key Sense on Thursday with She's Country. So
right.
They had the Breeders' Cup victory as well. So they're West Point on a little bit of a roll, no question about it. All right, let's take a look at some of today's stakes action, again, on the turf. What's the weather like down there?
We're good. We had a little bit of rain last night, but I don't think it's, and we're just kind of breezy. We are in the mid to upper 50s to start the day. I think we might be hitting the high before noon, and then it's going to sort of get colder as the day goes on, but we should be fine with the grass racing today. And, these two turf stakes finish up the turf season, or stakes season anyway. And as we were talking, about how big the fields are on turf, we have a 6-horse field for the Grade 3 Pebbles. We might be running out of these horses at this point. But look, I think Fast Market is the one to beat for John Terranova. They finally figured out that she's a 2-turn dirt horse or turf horse. Nice maiden win that proved productive in September, then came back with a just missed Fast Point in the Grade 2 to run Ready for Candy, who I believe that was her 3rd straight win for Phil Antonacci. So I think Fast Market's in a good spot here. Always hard to go against Thad Brown in these turf stakes, especially a race like the Pebbles, which he's won 6 times. And I believe the second in it last year. He's got Peak Hype, who's coming out of a 1 out of then victory on October 4th. But I think Fast Market, like I said, I think they found what she wants to do, and she's got to raise her game just a tick, and I think she'll be right there.
I had pulled up a replay of Peak Hype winning the allowance race last time for the second win in 4 career starts for Chad Brown. And I put that one on top over Fast Market, but it looks like Fast Market's a close-up 9-5 favorite, 2-1 for Peak Hype. I thought Paradise City might be a little bit interesting for Safi Joseph. Love You Anyway for Rusty Arnold also looks potentially, but it does look like it's probably going through either Fast Market or Peak Hype.
Yeah, Paradise City a little dangerous as maybe the potential speed, main speed cutting back from the 1.125 to a mile, so she could be dangerous in there just as a potential speed play. But I can also see it ain't too, going out there and applying a little pressure as well.
I have no replay for Forever Together, race number 7 today, mile and a 16th on the grass for the fillies and mares. I have no replay because normally I'm looking, hey, let me find a winner in the last race or a good run or a last couple of races. And it was tough to find in this field. Oversubscribed is the 6-5 favorite with Chad Brown and Manny Franco, no surprise, but hasn't been seen since the Pebbles last year. I thought Nice as Pie for Kelsey Danner, and I think you might have written about Kelsey Danner having some success down in New York over the past few weeks. Serona's interesting, spinning colors. How did you see the Forever Together?
Yeah, I mean, oversubscribed. If she's ready to run, like you've mentioned, she hasn't been out in a year since the Pebbles, where she was second. But Chad's done really, really well with horses coming back off a long layoff. I know he's pretty high on this filly overall. Whether she's going to be ready to go the mile 16th today off the layoff and from an outside draw needs to be answered. But I do think this race should propel her forward. But I think it's tough to take a short price on a horse coming off of a year layoff. But I didn't see a whole lot in here. Kelsey Danner, as mentioned, has had a nice little run here with some horses. Winning stakes races, Ground Support, who won the Grillo and then ran a very good third in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies Turf at the head of that list. This filly, she thought the horse would be a little bit closer than she was last time in Prescott, but I think maybe getting back to turf might be the key for her, although she has to prove that she wants to go this far. Danner does believe she does. And I think with Serona, who's another interesting horse in here for Graham Motion, who's won a few races here in New York lately. She did not want to go the mile and 3/8 in the way. I think the cutback will be fine for her. She got beat in her first U.S. start by Motion's no-show Sammy Joe, who you could have made a case could have won last week. Long Island. Was it Long Island? It was one of the stakes. They all run into each other. She was in a stakes race here last week, and she should have won the race. She ran second. So I think Serona might be the one I would go for if I'm trying to beat this, because I know she's going to handle the mile 16 better than I know Nice as Pie will.
Very good. And again, that'll wrap up the Turf Stakes racing for the New York season until next spring. And just before we let you go, you were out in California, part of the Racing Forum team covering the Breeders' Cup a few weeks ago, so I thought we'd get some thoughts there. I pulled up a replay. You kind of alluded to it when we talked about the 3-year-old filly, the maybe getting a turf eclipse. Some races seem to solidify things. Some races made things a little more questionable. But the one we come out of with a slam dunk, I think, is Ted Naufy. I think he was very impressive once again in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile. And I would find it almost impossible to believe he doesn't wind up with an eclipse out of the weekend.
Well, he should win an eclipse. The one, what you might wonder about, just because voters are odd sometimes, he should be a unanimous choice. I mean, there's no who would you vote for? Who would even? It's going to be hard to come up with finalists. I mean, Brandt, Napoleon Solo, maybe you take the juvenile turf winner, but this horse should be a unanimous. He's won all the, he's 4 for 4, won all 3 grade ones in which he participated in. The thing about him, though, and this is not a knock, this is just fact, is he's gotten the same trip every single time. He drove the outside post every single time, used his positional speed to get a stalking second position, and then took over at will. I think what will be unanswered until he gets to post 2, 3, or 4 in a race with 8, 9 or more is how he'll handle dirt in his face. Not saying he can't, just has to prove that he can. And it's just odd to see a horse get the outside draw in every single start and then get the same trip in every single start. But kudos to him that he can do that. Kudos to him that he can win all those races. And yes, he's a deserved champion. But as we get into his 3-year-old year and we see whether he's a real true Kentucky Derby type of horse, he's got to show that he can take some dirt, because even if he drew post 20 in the Derby, I don't know that that's an ideal scenario either.
And let's take a look now at the stretch run to the Breeders' Cup Classic and tie in Eclipse thoughts there as well. Forever Young looking very good. I like Sierra Leone. Forever Young, I think, got a little bit of a better trip as far as saving some ground. Sierra Leone, no, that's the style. So he was outside turning for home and ran well. But first you can talk about the performance in the Breeders' Cup Classic. But does the result give Sovereignty an eclipse by default?
Well, first of all, the performance by Forever Young was terrific. They had plotted this race out since they left the United States last year when he was third in the race. He kind of got a similar trip with a different type of pace. Last year, he was on the pace through 44 and change, primarily because he broke from the rail that day. He had a more of an outer draw here, but he was still into the race. But the difference was the pace was 45 and change and not 44 and change. So he had something left with which to finish, and he did. I would have a very difficult time giving Forever Young Horse of the Year off one start in the United States. I think if there was a result, I remember having a conversation with Bill Mott earlier in the week once it came out that his horse was out. I said, you probably want to root for Forever Young to win, because I think that would solidify Horse of the Year for him. So I said that to him before the race was run. I'll say that to you after the race was run. I do think Sovereignty should get Horse of the Year. I wouldn't even necessarily say by default, because I'm not even sure if somebody else had won it, that they would still have the resume this horse has. I think what Forever Young winning does is actually throw the older dirt male horse Eclipse into a disarray, because it's not easy to figure out who's deserving of it. You can look at Mindframe. He's got 2 Grade 1 stakes. Everybody else seems to have the 1 Grade 1 stake. Whitney for Sierra Leone, Pacific Classic for Fierceness, Locke with the Stand Need a Handicap. Everybody's got one. But Mindframe has 2. But the second half of his year, and no fault of his own in the Jockey Club Gold Cup, when he got unseated, you can't fault him for that. But he didn't run that great in the Breeders' Cup Classic. I didn't like the ride particularly, but maybe the fact that he didn't have a real race in shoe 28 played against him too. But that's a category that it's going to be very interesting when they open the envelope on January 22nd.
Yeah, and the surprising thing there is when last year's 3-year-olds kind of got to the end of the season and defined themselves and then continued that as 4-year-olds, it looked like it was going to be a really strong older division. And it was, but nobody really, as you say, stepped forward to put together a season that makes them an easy vote in that category. I think you're quite right. And let me hit on a couple other categories I'd like your take on. And I'll ask you, I had Tim Wilkin on last week, and I asked him what the feeling was in the press box as they came down the stretch. And he said for the race, he wasn't actually in the press box. But if you were, I'd love to know what folks were feeling when Ethical Diamond, the former jumper, wins a Breeders' Cup race. And my feeling there is, I wonder if that now hands the turf male Eclipse to Notable Speech with the win in the Breeders' Cup Mile and the Woodbine Mile.
Yeah, I think it does. Look, it was quite surprising that Ethical Diamond won that race. Rebels Romance, I was kind of rooting for Rebels Romance. I think I passed the race from a betting standpoint. So just looking at it, I just thought Rebels Romance at 7 years old and doing what he's doing was pretty cool. But I think Notable Speech, last year, Rebels Romance got it off the one race, which I don't particularly love, especially we had a horse like Johannes, who I thought had a comparable campaign in North America. And to me, it's the North American award. But as you mentioned, Notable Speech has that victory in Canada and then came back and won the Breeders' Cup. So that gives him 2 North American victories. And I think you could make, you don't have to necessarily hold your nose while you write his name down as a champion. And I think he'll get it.
Ben Tornado and Bookham Dano. From listening to people, it seems like there's a lot of folks tilting towards Bookham Dano, and I think I'm probably in that camp too.
I am too, Seth. Aside from the 2-year-old, I can't give an Eclipse award to an older horse who runs twice.
Yeah.
Kudos. He won the Breeders' Cup Sprint. You're never going to take that away from him. But 2 races. He won a race that is it the Louisville Society or something like that? I mean, when you don't know the names of the races that these horses are running in and winning, it's a little difficult. I mean, look, it's not Bookham Dano's fault that some group of people thought that the Alfred G. Vanderbilt should be a Grade 2 and not a Grade 1. Look, they're the same people who think the Cigar Mile should be a Grade 2 and not a Grade 1. And I'm sorry, I disagree with a lot of these downgrading of races. I guess what I'm saying here is I'm not just looking at Grade 1s anymore, because it's unfair to horses who are running in races that, especially in divisions where they don't have that many Grade 1s. And, I thought Bookham Dano was the best sprinter in this year, and he ran those 3 races at Saratoga. Even Derek Ryan, I quoted him the other day, said, I don't know that I'll ever have a horse good enough to run in those 3 races, let alone win them, nor do I know if I want to run him in those 3 races. It's a hard campaign, and he probably felt it at the end, and that's why we didn't see him after that race. So I think Lucambiano did enough. I don't think Ben Tornado did enough.
As I say, I'm in the same boat. Breeders' Cup, the distaff. Was there buzz out there? It seems like the day after, or even later that day, I was hearing everybody had the buzz on Scylla but me, and she ran great. And Nitrogen, as you kind of alluded to earlier, her performance and what she's done earlier this year on 2 surfaces probably got her the 3-year-old filly eclipse.
I think so. Scylla was a horse I've always liked, and I just didn't know that it was. First of all, I didn't expect her to go wire to wire. I didn't see that coming. I could see her winning. I don't know that I saw her going gate to wire and winning with as much authority as she did. I don't necessarily think that helps her get an Eclipse Award. That's her only win of the year. And you look, Bill Mott, they had the option to go in the filly and mare sprint or the distaff. They thought going in that the filly and mare sprint race would be tougher. Sure, they didn't know that the 2 favorites would get scratched the morning of the race. So I'm sure when they heard that those horses were scratched, they were all like, maybe we should have been in the filly and mare sprint. But look, what wasn't like. I think when Torpedo Anna came out or ran as poorly as she did in the distaff, Scylla ran pretty well, and Torpedo Anna didn't go to the distaff. I think they started to look at that race and say, you know what, maybe we belong here, because she has run some good races around 2 turns, and she had one at 1 1/8 miles, I believe, at Churchill Downs. So obviously they made the right call. I'll tell you what that race might have helped do in terms of Eclipse Awards. It might have weighed you to Bill Mott, because that's another category that's not easy to figure out. I think Mott was already in the running because of the job he did with Sovereignty. Obviously, Sovereignty couldn't perform that day because he got sick, but still, Mott's only other Breeders' Cup runner is a winner. So you can look at that and say, you know what, in a very close vote, I could see Bill Mott getting the Eclipse Award. I don't know. It's more work to be done in terms of studying everyone's record, but no one really, even the notable guys that Fletcher, Chad Brown, and Bob Baffert, they didn't have typical Todd Fletcher, Chad Brown, Bob Baffert years. Yeah. They did well, but they didn't have their typical years. So maybe that Scylla win helps Bill Mott get another Eclipse Award.
I had heard a little conversation about that, and I agree with that as well. Just before we let go, I have one more thing, and that was I was in here doing the afternoon handicapping show, and it was fun to watch because you're seeing something you are unlikely to see again, and that was the day after the Breeders' Cup. Flavien Prat takes the red eye, gets in reportedly at 3 a.m., gets a couple hours of sleep, then comes to Aqueduct, runs second in the first race, wins the next 6, then he wins a later race. So he wins 7, a record 7 wins in a day down at Aqueduct, a close second in the other 2. And as I say, just as a fan, it was fun to watch that. And again, kind of kicked off what has been a phenomenal now start to, that kind of ended things the previous meet, but he has kept it going into the current Aqueduct meet. But it was a phenomenal day, the day after the Breeders' Cup for Flavien Prat.
It was. I was watching from the Del Mar press box. I did not take the red eye back to get to New York. So I was watching that and marveling at his exploit. I even think, he went 7 for 10, 3 seconds. I would say that the combined margin of defeat for those 3 seconds was 2 lengths or less. Yeah. Especially in the last, he was coming. I think he got beat a head or a neck in one of them and a half length in another. I don't remember the first race was a stakes race that he got beat on, but I don't remember the margin there. I would think it was like maybe a length and a half. So he was like 2 lengths away from going 10 for 10, which was remarkable. And then, as you mentioned, he's kind of carried it over. I believe he's 17 for 50 something here. So he's ridden 24 winners from like 64 mounts since November 2nd. That's 2 weeks. Today's the 16th. That's a meet for some people. And he's done it. He's won 24 races in 2 weeks. And he's going to be here this winter. He could probably win as many races as he chooses, if you want to know the truth, especially with the unfortunate injury to Dylan Davis, who's going to be, he's going to be out months. And other guys, Sabachi is going to be out at least a month. So, Pratt being here this winter is going to, he's going to win a lot of races, except when obviously when he goes out of town on those weekends. But he's on quite the roll right now. And as I mentioned, I texted Richard Bigliori after the Stakes win the other day, and I said, "Am I wrong, or is this guy like doing what Jerry Bailey used to do?" And he said, "No, you're spot on." And just, when I did an interview with Pratt prior to the opening of the Saratoga meet in July, and one of the things he said to me was, he's gotten more comfortable here because he knows how to ride the racetracks here. But he also indicated that he also knows the tendencies of his competition. And that was what was strong about Jerry Bailey. Jerry Bailey obviously knew what he was going to do, but he knew what you were going to do, which helped him do what he wanted to do it really well. And I see the same thing with Wally Pratt.
Yeah, it's been phenomenal over the past couple of weeks, but beyond that as well. Last year he had an absolutely phenomenal year also. But that Sunday was again, it was just fun to watch as a fan. Dave, as always, appreciate the conversation. You can follow Dave, the hard copy of DRF, obviously, but also at drf.com. But as I say, appreciate the conversation. A little New York, a little Breeders' Cup, and more. And we'll talk again.
Thank you, Seth. Have a good day.
You too. Dave Grening. All right, I'm going to wrap it up for Racing Across America. Technically, I'm going to step out, but after the break, as usual on a Sunday morning, our man Anthony Probst will step into my seat. League lockdown coming up. He's going to give you a little preview of some of the NFL action that'll be coming up over the next couple of days. So stay tuned for that as we have the football action available right here at the Clubhouse Racebook on Sundays. If you'd like to come down, go over into our food vendor, Black Bear, watch some football action and racing action as well. But as I say, after the break, League Lockdown with Anthony Probst. Stay tuned.
Sometimes it pays to go with the flow, to check your worries at the door, to reconnect with your crew, to follow the thrills and the flavor, to roll with it and see where it takes you, to enjoy every minute to its fullest, and to dance like there's no tomorrow. You can do that here at Rivers Casino and Resort Schenectady, where the good times flow.
Haven't signed up for a Capital OTB account yet? Now's the time to take advantage of the sign-up bonus. Open up a new account with $200 or more, bet $400 by the end of the month, and receive a bonus $200 into your account. Plus, you can take advantage of everything an OTB account has to offer: wagering from any device, live streaming, racing info, past performances, online promotions, and more. Sign up today and take advantage of the new account bonus. Details at capitalotb.com.
Come on.
I want sales reports on my desk by Monday.
Whoops. My bad.
Love racing? RTN brings you every live simulcast on your home television, plus live video streaming and race replays on your PC and mobile devices. To order, visit rtn.tv. RTN, a breed apart.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to League Lockdown, brought to you by Capital OTB. I'm your host, Anthony Probst, and we're going to be previewing every NFL game we got going on this week. But first, we got to look at two things. First off, Thursday night's game, Patriots-Jets, and a 27-17 shootout. The Patriots now continue to dominate the league right now, and they're now on their 9-game win streak for the first time since the Brady and Belichick era. Now, I don't know about you guys, but like I said last week, my hot take that still stands is the fact that Drake May is now the second coming of Tom Brady. You can't tell me anything else. You can't prove me wrong because the games speak for themselves. Like, let's be honest. It's amazing to see this happen. But now let's look at the games we got going on today, starting with the Sunday morning game over in Madrid. You got the Commanders and the Dolphins. That currently is just about to hit halftime. There's maybe about 15 seconds left in the second quarter. Dolphins are actually up 6-3 right now, so we'll have to see how that one finishes out. But with Terry McLaurin still being out for the Commanders and the Dolphins not being too bad, they had a pretty decent win last week. Let's see if they can pull this one out. We'll see how that goes. But jumping ahead to the 1 o'clock spot, we got the Packers-Giants, and Jameis Winston is activated and will start for this game, especially after the Giants head coach did end up getting fired, unfortunately, on Monday. It happens. Texans, Titans, they take the field also at 1 o'clock with C.J. Stroud being ruled out on Friday, and Davis Mills will start for that game. You got the Panthers, Falcons, the Bears and the Vikings, the Chargers and the Jags, Bucks and Bills, and we'll see if that one will be a cookout because both of them are going to be trying to regain momentum after both unfortunately suffering Week 10 losses. After starting both dominantly 4-0 for Buffalo and 3-0 for Tampa Bay, we're going to have to see if they can pick up speed and momentum. For the Jags and Chargers, Travis Hunter did unfortunately have to undergo knee surgery and is out for the rest of the year. So Jacoby Myers, their pickup they got from the trade deadline, will be playing. You also have the Steelers and Bengals going on at 1 o'clock. You got the Unk Bowl Part 2 between Uncle Aaron and Uncle Joe. 4 o'clock spot, we got the 49ers and the Cardinals, the Seahawks and the Rams, the Chiefs and the Broncos, and the Ravens and the Browns. It is an AFC domination day. Sunday Night Football, we got the Lions and the Eagles. And for you Lions fans, unfortunately, Sam Laporta was put on IR due to a back injury, and he is going to be sidelined for this game and missing a couple others. Then Monday Night Football, we got the Raiders and the Cowboys. That's amazing. We love that. That's going to be a game to watch. Few bigger notable injuries. We got J.K. Dobbins, who did yesterday on Saturday get put out for the rest of the year and the rest of the season. He did have a very significant foot injury, so it's going to unfortunately require some surgery. Then Chiefs fans, I know you're not going to be happy to hear this. Isaiah Pacheco again was ruled out on Friday for this game against the Broncos. Then running back Bucky Irving and wide receiver Chris Godwin both out for this Bucs game against the Bills. But on the Bills side, tight end Dalton Kincaid also ruled out on Friday. So we got a couple big injuries to deal with, especially with Dalton Kincaid getting that hamstring bug that's been plaguing the league all year. And then my fellow Ravens fans, I know you're going to be sad to hear this. Marlon Humphrey's out, Rashad Bateman's out, and Justice Hill are all out. All three of them, Marlon had a pick, Bateman got a 2-point conversion, and Hill got a touchdown last week. So offensively and defense might have a couple issues. And then the 2 games of the week, 1 game of the weekend, and then 1 to keep an eyebrow raised. The main one that I want to talk about for game of the weekend is the Rams and the Seahawks. And the reason why I say this one's for the big dogs. This one here is going to be a dominating game because both of them last week in combination put up a stellar 86 points in total. So Matt Stafford, Sam Darnold, both are going to be going bar for bar, back and forth, just touchdown for touchdown, and it's going to be a game. It's going to come down to special teams and defense to put this one away. And then one to not necessarily call a game of the weekend, but something to look out. And again, raise that eyebrow of Sunday night game, Lions-Eagles. Like I said, Sam Laporta's out. However, Eagles little lackluster here. You know, they found ways to win, but the offensive performance has been kind of mild, you know, with them only managing 10 points on Monday against Green Bay. We're going to have to see how that one goes. I say we'll see if Jalen Hurts can escape the clutches of Aiden Hutchinson and that Lions defense and being on the hunt. But like Seth said prior to the break, if you want to come down and watch all the NFL action at our food vendor Black Bear, come watch all of it. Come watch the horse racing as well. I love to see it. We all love to see it. But with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to bring it to a close. I appreciate you all for watching, and don't forget to stay locked in.